The Ravening War was not what I expected. I don't really know what I was expecting, but it wasn't this.
He's coming.
In the name of the
Yes, Paso. The teeth come and take everything to nothing.
There's a mini with a bunch of bad teeth.
Despaso.
It turned out far more expansive and cosmic than I ever could have anticipated, and I loved it. But I didn't really love it at first. During my first viewing, I was enjoying it, but I wasn't really blown away. It felt a bit lackluster, but as the series went on, and as I kept thinking about it, my affection grew deeper and deeper. And by the time the finale happened, I was enraptured. And on second viewing, knowing what was coming, it was even better. And even now, I can't stop thinking about it. So now you are gonna have to listen to me rant about how much I like this dumb D&D show. And it's your fault, because you clicked on the video. For those uninitiated, or for those who need a quick refresher, let's go over exactly what the Ravening War is, as well as its context in the real world. The Ravening War is a prequel to A Crown of Candy, or rather it's a story that happens in the same world, Calorum, and it has some connections, but really has pretty little to do with Crown of Candy's story. It's run by Matthew Mercer, the GM for Critical Role, and seems to be a direct parallel to Exandria Unlimited Calamity, a Critical Role series that Brennan Lee Mulligan ran.
Fire.
Water.
The series follows a group of disparate people during a politically tense time. People with secrets that they would do anything to keep from getting out. But someone knows about all of them and blacks them into assassinating an unknown person who turns out to be the Queen of Candia, which sparks the existing conflict into a continent-wide war. The people that know are a group called the Fellowship of Destiny's Architects, or the FDA. This group seems to have members from all food groups, and their motives are mysterious. As the story moves along, the players discover more and more about this group and their goals. It turns out that they want to create a massive amount of death to stave off the Hungry One, this world's version of the devil, basically. Because death creates rot and mold, and that's something that the Hungry One will not consume.
The Hungry One is stirred for generations, growing with limitless craving. Through prosperity and peace, Calorum becomes ripe and pliable. It becomes the perfect meal to forever roil and burn within its belly. The hidden scripture, the festered tome, it holds the truth that will save us all. The Hungry One will not eat that which is spoiled.
And for various reasons, the party eventually turns against the FDA, and they interrupt a ritual that is meant to spread toxins into the air below the site of a great battle, killing everybody present. Only that is a lie, one spread within the FDA itself, because Archbishop Camille Cauliflower has other plans. She intends to summon Deespazul, a dark eldritch god of some kind who takes the form of a garbage disposal. The heroes stop the ritual and save the day, but it comes at a high cost.
Let it rupture in the name of the
See that last smile and look on Karna's face before she vanishes into the mouth.
Curious that Matt only killed the other GMs at the table. Perhaps a show of dominance? Who knows? I want to start off by talking about the world of Calorum for a little bit. A Crown of Candy is my favorite Dimension 20 season, partly because I love dark fantasy, low fantasy, and political intrigue. But sometimes those genres can get a little exhausting because of how serious and tense they can be. Calorum is all of the best parts of those genres, and plus, everybody's just made out of food. This is a very weird, paradoxical setting. The game demands to be taken seriously, but the setting is inherently silly. It's Game of Thrones meets Candyland, and somehow this works together to create the perfect blend of tension and comedy. I don't know how it works, but it somehow does, and I love it. It's just so weird and wonderful. There are scenes in this series that I find genuinely emotionally effective, that also make me laugh at their objective absurdity. For example, let's take a look at Lou's character Delandro, a man who is half Meatlander, half Ceresian, who has been involved in a forbidden romance with a Ceresian senator. But really, she's just manipulating him. Let's take a look at her introduction.
Well, when it's a safe and welcoming for a Sarisian senator of my esteem and experience to come visit, maybe you can show me one of these Bulbian rises across the Midlands and she leans in real close to your ear. Maybe, finally, perhaps, slam it down a big style.
He implies that the romance will be consummated if he unites the Meatlands, which is something that serves her goals. So Deli makes that his goal throughout the series. He grasps at power in any way that he can, including working with a cult, assassinating major political figures, and betraying and abandoning his mother.
Your mother stops talking to you. Primarily not recognizing this sudden shift in allegiance. But when you are granted the title of chief of your own clan, she is absolved of hers. She leaves and walks northward and is not seen again.
In addition to betraying his mother, he also sabotages real relationships to pursue this fake romance. His lust for power drives away Zach's character, Colin Provolone, who we will talk about later, don't you worry, and he refuses to pursue an actual connection that he has with Abria's character, Karna. And then when he finally does unite the Meatlands, Ariana, the Sarisian senator, completely blows him off.
I think I probably would have written to her once after that.
I think she would have responded, but it would have
Okay.
taken some time and it would have been rather short. Just saying, things are a bit messy here in Sarisia. I have a lot to focus on. Maybe some point soon we can meet up and have a coffee.
Oh, wow.
The next time that Deli and Ariana see each other, they're on opposite sides of a fight for the fate of the world. And this happens.
You lied. You lied to me. You told me if I united the Meatlands, that you would be there, that you would come.
I did not lie. It was Basha that united them.
I saved myself.
Oh!
This guy's a virgin?
I wanted to be slammed down big style as the bulb rose. You lied! You lied! I lied to my kin, betrayed my mother for you!
This scene is genuinely heartbreaking because it's a young, naive man who sacrificed everything for someone who didn't love him back. And not only that, she only saw him as a pawn and has no interest in actually connecting with him. He was a tool to be used and discarded, his entire life twisted and disposed of. But it's also a pastrami sandwich yelling at a pasta lady about getting slammed down big style. Lou Wilson is such a good performer that he can simultaneously convey two wildly different tones. He can deliver an absurd line with genuine heartbreak and then express pure rage in a moment where he's barely containing his laughter. It's just a beautiful moment that goes to show that comedy and drama don't have to be opposites. They can coexist while also enhancing one another. And now, I want to talk about Colin Provolone. I love Colin Provolone so much, which is not something I expected. Though I probably should have, he is a Zach Oyama character. Colin is the everyman in this story. He's a guy who is just running from his past, trying to make a living. When we meet him, he's just a mercenary, trying to ingratiate himself with his current employer.
Ask me, if, we got ambushed right now, ask me how to handle it.
Colin, if we got ambushed right now, how would you handle it?
Circle the strawberries. Surround the car with strawberries.
He's about as close to a normal person in this world as we've gotten in terms of the player characters. He doesn't seem to have much of an identity at first, no direction or purpose, except for finding some stability. And he's given that as an opportunity when he meets Deli's mom.
My son has an open heart. As hard as I have tried to train it out of him, it is both his greatest weakness and his boldest strength. I don't trust any of these people. They will all use him, or worse. And I cannot always be there to protect him. I will not always be here to protect him. I'll pay you whatever it takes for as long as you want. Just watch his back.
I think we have a deal.
And then, along with everyone else, he is informed that someone knows his secret, and he gets sucked into something he never wanted to be a part of. See, Colin does not want people to pay attention to him. He is the grandson of somebody who rebelled against the Dairy Islands and was brutally executed for it. That man's son, Colin's father, suffered the same fate. Or so we think. Colin fears this will happen to him, so all he wants is some stability, but in a position where no one will notice him. And the fact that A, someone knows his secret, and B, they are powerful and are paying attention to him, makes him extremely nervous. So he's willing to go along with whatever they ask. And then he does. And not only does he participate in the catalyst that expanded the war, but he also had to kill an innocent bystander who just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Provolone's gonna look at the banana. I think Provolone's going to take his movement and jump on the boat and fucking kill the banana. And I hit him with my sword.
And silently, quietly, the blade snaps through, and as the head just rolls off and plops into the bottom of the boat.
And I think Colin saw a bit of himself in that banana. Like him, Colin's situation is purely happenstance. He just happened to be born into the wrong family at the wrong time. He lost everything because of what his grandfather did, not anything he did. He was just born into the wrong family at the wrong time, much like how this peasant was roaming in the wrong place at the wrong time. Colin decides that he needs a change. He can't be a part of whatever this is anymore. But Deli, his employer and friend, sees things differently.
From here, we'll return to Karn, knowing that they are behind us, that we have their support, and we'll move swiftly, aggressively. There's no need to hold back anymore.
I think that there is value to holding back after what we just did.
I stand up. I'm trying to intimidate you. This is not friendly. I stand up. There can be no holding back, Colin. This is the moment. You heard Rafanuel. You heard the bishop. War is about to come. And the Meadlands will be united. And we will stand, and we will fight, and you will be there with me.
I think Colin's just gonna undo his belt that has his sword and his dagger on it and just drop it on the ground in front of him.
Colin heads out on his own and decides that what he wants is to do everything that he can to stop the FDA. So he meets up with Brennan's character, Rafanuel Charlock, who has the same goal, but they have extremely different motives. Rafanuel is bitter about not being invited into this cult, and Colin thinks what they do is reprehensible. But there are some obstacles. Colin needs more authority and resources to do this. So Rafanuel pulls some strings and makes Colin a Bulbian knight, which he hates. Colin works with Rafanuel across a few years, and eventually they come to the climactic fight of the story where Deus Pazul is summoned, and they foil the FDA's plans. He survives, but he does end up watching Rafanuel die, which isn't all that relevant to the current conversation, but I just wanted to play this clip.
Sir,
So good.
After the fight, Colin commits the rest of his life to hunting down and eliminating the remnants of this evil cult. And I love that for him. Colin's story kind of came out of nowhere for me. For the first half of the series, I liked him fine, but he wasn't all that interesting. But then his turn halfway through, after he killed that banana, I just kind of fell in love with his story. And he's not the only one with a great arc. Rafanuel's descent into madness is phenomenal. Lady Amango's transition from a noble to a soldier is great. And Karna's desperate search for a home also works really well. But my favorite is definitely Colin Provolone. Next, we're going to talk about Eldritch gods. And I happen to serve one myself. Its name is the Algorithm, and it demands likes, comments, and subscriptions. So y'all better click those buttons, clack those keys, and if you want to serve me, serve the Algorithm, you can become a member down below by clicking the join button. Now enough about real Eldritch gods. Let's talk about the one in Calorum, Deus Pazul. I love this expansion to the world of Calorum. In A Crown of Candy, Calorum is very much Game of Thrones, the TV show specifically. It has the same tone and much of the same style of world building. It has the political intrigue, the complex family dynamics, the possibility of betrayal at every turn. The Ravening War is much more like A Song of Ice and Fire, the books that the show is based on. Because if you've only watched the show, to be honest, you're kind of missing out. The books get weird, and it's awesome. It still has all the intrigue and complexity of the Game of Thrones, probably more so, but it also has eldritch entities and gods and dark magic that play a much more prominent part in the books. And the fact that the eldritch god of Calorum is a garbage disposal is just beautiful. I could try to explain why, but Brennan did it perfectly, so I'll just let him do that.
What is food if never on is fed? When with strange disposals, even death lies dead.
A nice little Lovecraft reference, just to really hammer home the vibe of that final fight. And Nathaniel's arc is really central to this part of the story. He has visions of some strange alien teeth tearing food apart, and his connection to whatever this is what grants him his magic. And he interprets these visions in a multitude of ways, but what ends up being true is just kind of existentially horrifying. He thought he had some kind of greater purpose. He thought something was calling him to complete some great mission. It was what motivated him to do everything that he did, but it turned out just to be an eldritch god that wanted to tear him apart. And in the end, it got him. And the last thing I want to talk about is how Mercer ran a story that takes place over the course of almost 20 years in a 6-session campaign. He does this by using time jumps, which is something that isn't really used in tabletop RPGs all that much, and the way he introduces it in this part of the story is something of a reversal.
In the wake of this ominous Egamir festival, Tamate rallies the people of Fructera behind his cause and begins seizing bordering Vegetanian lands as the months grow on. Marching Fructeran armies make their way to the gates of Greenhold to claim his throne by force. In the midst of this struggle, to the north, the Ceresian Senate engages military support to aid in their alliance with the Vegetanian lords, a move that widely upsets the Ceresian people and pushes back the Fructeran armies. In the 2 years that follow this Egamir, Senator Fokasha claims dominance of Ceresia as the new imperator, withdrawing from the southern conflict and instead mounting the Ceresian armies to assault the Meatlands at their border. This galvanizes the Dairy Islands to take up arms in support of their Meatlander allies, which in turn triggers a full-scale assault from Ceresia retaliation, and they invade the Dairy Islands. Candy's refusal to take the banner of war in defense of the islands further fractures the ruling House Rocks of Candia, establishing the Candian traitor house of Jawbreaker. By the year 1190, all of Calorum is embroiled in the beginnings of a full-scale, continent-wide war, one to be known in time as the Ravening War.
This series is called The Ravening War, so we expect that to be the focus of the story. But Matt mostly skips over the beginning of the war in the time jump, and later skips ahead again when the real war breaks out. Many of the characters play significant roles in the war, but none of them are leaders of any factions, or legendary war heroes or central players. Deli comes the closest, but he's overshadowed by the actual leader, Basha. Instead, he focuses on the people that are at the center of the most pivotal moments of the war, and the machinations that caused it to be as awful as it was. He focused on the puppeteers, not the puppet show, which I think is really neat. But I'm more interested in how he runs these time jumps, because I think there's something we can learn here. Let's see how he handles a very significant event in the second time jump, the assassination of Saphira Rocks.
You let her arrive in Karn and actually speak to the Speaker of the Hen, implore for aid and unity. The speaker seems distant, seeks to contemplate on her words, and leaves her for a week, drifting, waiting for a response, intimidated in a land she doesn't understand. The perfect time. And it doesn't take much. With a small tug, the life leaves her body. and is discovered not but 4 hours later in a place of your choosing, where you knew it would have the most impact.
This is a big move, and Matt just lets it happen. No rolls required, which I think is fascinating. Normally, when an outcome is uncertain in a tabletop RPG, you roll a die to see if you're successful, but in this instance, Matt skipped that step. Now, to be fair, this is something that kind of has to happen. Saphria Rox was assassinated during the Ravening War, as was established in A Crown of Candy, so this wasn't something that could fail. But on the other hand, the death of Pamela was still left up to the dice. But this isn't the only time Matt does this. During these time jumps, players pitch what they want to happen. And sometimes Matt will have them roll, but other times he just lets them do what they want to do. I think it's a way of telling a massive story in a small amount of time, and a way of keeping the game moving and keeping the story flowing. But it's also a way of getting your players invested, letting them co-author the story that you're telling together. And as long as you trust your players and the things they pitch aren't too far out there, I think this is a great way to run parts of a game like the Ravening War. This series is a direct parallel to Exandria Unlimited Calamity, which is a series that Brennan ran on Critical Role, and to date is probably my favorite actual play series. And one of my first videos is actually about Calamity. So if you want to watch that, click on the video on the screen. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to support the channel directly, become a channel member. You get to see all my videos a couple days early, and you get your name shouted out at the end of videos. Speaking of which, shout out to my channel members: Caleb, Eggensberger, Xenon, Ali Asylum, Willaboot1, Firegen1, my mom, Moon Nerdy, Exodus Faith, and Alexis Love. Thank you so much for watching.